Imagine waking up one morning and deciding that by this time next year, you will have completely transformed your life. You'll be fitter, richer, happier, and more successful. You've made this promise to yourself before, maybe on New Year's Eve, maybe on your birthday. You know the drill. You go all in for 2 weeks, maybe 3. Then life gets in the way. The gym membership goes unused, the business plan gathers dust, the diet becomes a distant memory. Now imagine there's a way to achieve everything you want without willpower, without massive change, and without overwhelming yourself. What if the secret to success isn't about big leaps, but about something much smaller? What if the key to transforming your life isn't a revolution, but an evolution? This is the story of Kaizen, the Japanese philosophy of continuous improvement that helped rebuild a nation, revolutionized global industry, and can change your life, one tiny step at a time. We live in a world obsessed with the big breakthrough. We're told that success comes from a single brilliant idea, a massive effort, or a dramatic transformation. Social media feeds us stories of overnight sensations and instant millionaires. The self-help industry sells us the promise of radical change in 30 days. We're conditioned to believe that if we're not making huge leaps forward, we're falling behind. But here's the problem with that thinking. Most of us aren't equipped for massive change. Our brains are wired to resist it. When we try to overhaul our lives all at once, we trigger our amygdala, the brain's fear center, and our minds scream danger. We procrastinate, we self-sabotage, we give up. And then we feel like failures. We tell ourselves we lack willpower, discipline, or drive. We stop believing we can change it all. But what if the problem isn't you? What if the problem is the approach you've been using? What if there's a better way, one that works with your brain instead of against it, one that's been proven over decades to create lasting change? 1945, Japan lay in ruins. The country had been devastated by war, its cities destroyed, its economy shattered, its spirit broken. Many believed Japan would never recover. The country faced a choice: give up or find a way to rebuild from the ashes. What happened next is one of the most remarkable economic transformations in human history. Within a few decades, Japan rose from defeat to become the world's second-largest economy. How did they do it? They didn't rely on massive government bailouts or miraculous discoveries. They did something much more subtle. They embraced a philosophy called Kaizen. The story begins in factories, particularly at Toyota. In the post-war years, a Japanese engineer named Taiichi Ono and a consultant named Shigeo Shingo began examining the American manufacturing practices. They realized that while America focused on mass production and efficiency at scale, they could do something different. They could focus on something more human. The idea was simple but radical. Instead of relying on top-down management and massive changes, they would empower every single worker, from the factory floor to the executive suite, to suggest small improvements every day. They would seek to eliminate waste in any form: wasted motion, wasted time, wasted materials. And they would do it not through dramatic overhauls, but through tiny, continuous adjustments. At first, the changes were almost laughably small. A worker might suggest moving a tool 2 inches closer to the assembly line to reduce reaching time. Another might propose changing the order of tasks to reduce footsteps. These changes saved seconds, maybe minutes. But they added up, and over time, they transformed entire industries. Here's what's fascinating. In one factory, a worker noticed that the screwdrivers hanging from the ceiling were swinging, causing workers to waste time stabilizing them before use. His suggestion? Attach a small, flexible cord to keep them steady. Simple, right? Yet this tiny improvement saved 200 minutes of work time every single month. This is the power of Kaizen. It's not about finding $100 million ideas. It's about finding thousands of ideas worth $1 each. Kaizen is a Japanese term made up of 2 characters: Kai, meaning change, and Zen, meaning good. Together they mean good change or continuous improvement. But to understand Kaizen, you have to understand that it's more than a tool. It's a mindset. It's a way of approaching life and work that says improvement is always possible, and that small, consistent changes are more powerful than occasional, massive leaps.
The philosophy has two core principles. First, everyone should be involved in improvement. Not just managers, not just experts, everyone. The people doing the work every day know the most about where the waste is and what needs to change. Second, improvement should be continuous and incremental. Instead of seeking one big breakthrough, you're looking for dozens or hundreds of small improvements. These are low cost, low risk, and sustainable. If an improvement doesn't work, you haven't lost much. But if it does work, you're one step closer to your goal. And because the change is small, your brain doesn't perceive it as a threat. A slight shift, adding a layer of fascinating historical context. Here's the beautiful irony of Kaizen. While it's known today as a Japanese philosophy, many of its ideas can be traced back to an American influence. In the 1950s, a statistician named W. Edwards Deming taught Japanese industry about the plan, do, check, act cycle, a simple method for testing improvements before committing to them. The Japanese embraced this approach and made it their own. They took the idea of continuous improvement and turned it into a national philosophy. Today, the terms Kaizen and continuous improvement are used interchangeably around the world. Becoming more relatable and illustrative, a slightly faster, engaging pace. To truly understand Kaizen, you need to see it in action. Let's look at how it transformed a sandwich factory in Japan. This factory employed mostly women, many with disabilities. The old way of working involved a linear assembly line. Each worker performed one task as the sandwiches moved past them. But the bread cutting station consistently took longer than the others, creating a bottleneck that left other workers waiting. The process had been that way for years, and nobody had questioned it. Then they applied Kaizen. They realized the problem wasn't the workers, it was the system, so they changed it. Instead of a linear assembly line, they had small groups of workers complete entire batches of sandwiches. Workers were assigned multiple tasks. Workbenches were rearranged. The result was a sharp reduction in waiting time and a significant increase in productivity. Workers who had previously stood idle were now fully engaged. The job became more satisfying, and the work got done faster. Now consider the application in a different kind of setting. At Armstrong World Industries in Oregon, teams used Kaizen to tackle the problem of machine changeovers. In any factory, when you switch from producing one product to another, there's downtime. The longer the downtime, the less productive the operation. Through a series of Kaizen events, teams developed new procedures, placed lights at 7 different stations to communicate status, and even created a script that would be announced over the public address system during changeovers. At first, workers were skeptical. They made fun of the script. But then the results started showing. Changeovers got faster. Workers began competing to announce they were ready first. They encouraged each other and celebrated success. What had started as a skeptical, forced process became an integral part of the plant's culture. The pace slows, becoming deeply meaningful and direct. This is the power of Kaizen. It transforms not just processes, but people. It creates a culture of collaboration, engagement, and continuous learning. And here's something even more remarkable. The Kaizen approach doesn't just apply to factories. It applies to your life. Let me show you how. Almost conspiratorial tone. You are coaching them directly. Imagine you want to get fit. Most people start by setting a massive goal. Run a marathon, lose 50 pounds, or get 6-pack abs. Then they go to the gym 7 days a week, eat nothing but kale, and burn out in a month. That's the big change approach, and it fails more often than it succeeds. Here's the Kaizen way. Start so small you can't possibly fail. If you want to start running, start with 1 minute. Just one. Get up tomorrow morning, put on your shoes, and run for 60 seconds. That's it. It seems almost ridiculous, doesn't it? What can 1 minute accomplish? But here's the magic. When you do this, you're not just exercising. You're building a habit. You're showing your brain that exercise is possible. You're making it easier to run for 2 minutes tomorrow, and then 3, and then 5. And before you know it, you're running 30 minutes without even thinking about it. This approach works because it bypasses the resistance that comes with big changes. Your amygdala doesn't freak out over 1 minute of running. There's no fear, no anxiety, no overwhelm. The change is so small, it's barely noticeable. But repeated over and over, it becomes powerful. The same principle applies to writing a book. Most aspiring authors dream of writing a masterpiece, sit down at their computer, stare at a blank page, and freeze. The task is too big. Their brain panics. They procrastinate. The Kaizen approach? Write one sentence, just one. Then tomorrow, write another. Before you know it, you've written a paragraph, then a page, then a chapter. In a year, you've written a book. It didn't take willpower or inspiration. It took consistency. What about relationships? Here's a story from a couple who applied Kaizen to their relationship. They were struggling, drifting apart. Instead of trying to fix everything at once, the typical approach of therapy, grand gestures, and dramatic promises, they made a simple commitment. They would spend 15 minutes a day talking about money. It sounds almost too simple, but by focusing on one topic, reducing the overwhelm, they were able to have honest conversations about a difficult subject. Over time, they rebuilt trust, aligned their goals, and their relationship strengthened. The pace quickens slightly, becoming more direct and actionable. Do you see the pattern here? Kaizen is about breaking down the overwhelming into the doable. It's about finding the smallest possible action you can take right now. It's about making progress, not perfection. It's about playing the long game. Here's a practical framework to apply Kaizen in your own life. The 1-minute rule. If a task takes less than a minute to complete, do it immediately. This simple habit prevents small tasks from piling up and becoming overwhelming. It keeps your environment organized and your mind clear. The 2-minute habit. When you want to build a new habit, start with 2 minutes. Want to meditate? Meditate for 2 minutes. Want to read more? Read for 2 minutes. The goal is to establish the identity of someone who does this activity. It doesn't matter how long you do it. What matters is that you show up. The 5S system. This is a classic Kaizen tool for organizing your physical space. Sort, set in order, shine, standardize, and sustain. Start with one drawer, one shelf, one corner of your workspace. Clear out what you don't need. Organize what's left. Clean it. Create a standard for keeping it clean. And sustain it. Once that one area is organized, move on to the next. Over time, your entire environment becomes an ally in your productivity. The Improvement Journal. Every day, write down 3 things you improved, no matter how small. It might be organizing your email inbox. It might be taking a different route to work to save 5 minutes. It might be saying something kind to a colleague. Documenting your improvements builds a habit of noticing opportunities, and over time, you'll see that all those small improvements add up to significant change. The Accountability Partner. Find someone who wants to improve as well. Share your 1-minute goals with each other. Check in daily. Celebrate small wins. This external support and accountability makes it easier to maintain consistency. Now, let me address the question you might be asking. Why does small change work better than big change? The answer is neuroscience. When you attempt a huge change, your brain perceives a threat. The amygdala activates, triggering the fight or flight response. Your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for willpower and decision-making, shuts down. You become anxious, you procrastinate, and you find reasons to quit. Small change bypasses this reaction. The change is so tiny that your brain doesn't perceive it as a threat. The amygdala stays calm. Your prefrontal cortex remains engaged, and because the change is small, it becomes easier to repeat, day after day, until it becomes a habit. And habits are the real secret to lasting change. A slower, more majestic pace to let the lesson of the story land. Let me tell you one more story. There's a legendary story in the annals of Kaizen. It's a video created to demonstrate the power of Kaizen. The process is making toast. Just making toast. A simple process involving a toaster, a knife, a plate, and a customer, in this case, the presenter's wife. At first glance, it seems like there's nothing to improve. It's toast. How much waste can there be in making toast? But the Kaizen mindset says there's always room for improvement. The presenter watches the process with fresh eyes. He observes every step. He measures every motion. And he asks, how can this be better? This is the ultimate lesson of Kaizen. It's not about major breakthroughs in advanced industries. It's about paying attention. It's about noticing the small inefficiencies in your own life and finding ways to eliminate them. It's about taking one small step forward every day, knowing that those steps will eventually take you where you want to go. When you look back at your life 5 years from now, you won't be transformed by a single extraordinary moment. You'll be transformed by the thousands of ordinary moments you chose to improve. The decision to move a little more, read a little more, work a little more, love a little more. Each one insignificant on its own. Combined, they shape your destiny. Kaizen is the story of Japan's recovery. It's the story of Toyota's dominance. It's the story of countless individuals who achieved extraordinary results through ordinary consistency. And it can be your story too. The mountain you want to climb is not conquered in a single leap. It is conquered step by step, inch by inch. The key is to take the first step, then take another, and before you know it, you've reached the summit. If this idea of continuous improvement resonates with you, I have a simple request. I want to challenge you to start your own Kaizen journey today. Not next week, not tomorrow, today. Find one tiny thing you can improve in your life and do it right now. It doesn't need to be big, it just needs to be something. If you found this story meaningful, please hit that like button. It helps me create more of these documentaries. Subscribe to the channel so you never miss a story that could change your perspective. And leave a comment below telling me one small improvement you're going to make today. Let's build a community of continuous improvers together. Remember, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. And now, more than ever, it's time to take yours. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next story.